My name's Josh Prouse. I'm a computer science teacher at Lester B. Pearson High School here in Calgary. I was recently given a position called the e-learning learning leader. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is how technology and inquiry work together, how technology can be leveraged to improve your inquiry in the classroom. And I thought, well, let's take this to its logical conclusion. And this was my alternate title for the presentation. And I know what you all hope the answer is. This gentleman here, his name's Sagata Mitra, he's doing some really interesting experiments. His answer to this question was this. And this gentleman, Sir Arthur C. Clarke, is known for 2001: A Space Odyssey. He spoke with Sagata Mitra before he passed away recently. This was his answer. And I'd like to agree with him and say that I've taught with some of these teachers, and on certain days I've been one of these teachers. Let's talk briefly about what e-learning is. E-learning looks to shift the educational experience in three ways. That's when you can access learning, where you can access learning, and the rate at which you access that learning. So how does e-learning and approaching a course with an e-learning focus, how does it support your inquiry? Well, first of all, you have to create a digital version of your course. And because you have to think of it as, I may not be here when students are accessing this information. You have to put a lot of thought into really good guiding questions, really good topics, really good ways, really good entry points into the material. Secondly, a really good feature of an online course is a forum, a discussion area. And in a discussion area, you can see how your students take up these questions. And you can say, man, that question really didn't work out too well. Or, this was pretty good, but this comment is something I should think about the next time I approach this issue. An online forum is also really great because it allows students that maybe don't participate so well in class to have a voice in those discussions. And so it gives you a broader perspective on what they might actually know about the topic. There's some other things that aren't really inquiry specific. Online quizzes are self-assessing in most cases, and kids can take them up at their own pace and get a very good sense of what they know, and you don't have to be marking them by hand. There's also some really neat tools that mutate as the kids take the quizzes. So a quiz where if the student is not doing so well on a topic, the quiz will notice that and automatically adjust the questions to become a little bit simpler or related to the particular area that the student's having trouble with. This is something you can't do with a paper test, and it's very effective in diagnosing some of the problems that students have with the material. Artifacts of learning. Students love working with technology to show you what they know. So movies, music, animations, PowerPoint presentations. Automatically an e-learning environment provides a space for this kind of stuff. The major advantage of an e-learning environment to me is that it gives you time back. And it allows you to then spend time on things like this. Fun, really authentic assessments where you're doing interviews, you're doing presentations, you're doing performance. And that's really where we would like to see more of your time going. When you have an online class, when the bell goes at the end of the day and you've had a great session with the kids and they want to keep going, but the bell goes and you actually get kids going, ah, that's a great feeling when that happens, by the way. And the kids want to be there. They're so excited. They don't have to stop. On lunch hour, they can whip out their laptops, they can go onto your course, and they can go to the next piece. They can do more research. They can continue. And that's what inquiry's for. Inquiry's not for us to sit in the classroom and go, we're awesome. We really got these kids going, and I want them to now stop until they come back tomorrow, and then we'll keep going again. That's not what it's for. It's to inspire them. And it seems to me that if we've done all that work to inspire them, there should be something there to let them continue that process. And lastly, this is the worst reason. Keep in mind the fact that you want a bit of a fail-safe. You may be in an environment where they're not supportive of the idea of inquiry generally. And so if you create a digital course and have that online and available, then you can say, this is sort of like my backup stand and deliver teacher. All the assignments, all the questions, all the discussions are there. And you're going to be building a course anyway. So instead of having a bunch of paper binders that can catch on fire or get stolen, or one of your colleagues might borrow it and you might not see it, why not build something that's digital and it's there and you don't have to worry about it? So there's a bigger question around e-learning though. If this is just about technology, it makes geeks like me happy. But unless it's actually functional, unless it actually works, I say we throw it out. We're going to go back to our friend Sugata Mitra. He was concerned about Indian students who were in poor areas who had no access to education. Generally bad teachers, no technology, no support. And he was wondering, can we create learning for these kids through technology? His first experiment was called the hole-in-the-wall experiment. And what he did was he took buildings in slums, cut a hole in the wall of these buildings, and stuck a computer in there with a little touchpad and a keyboard. And then he walked away. And what he found was that within about 8 minutes, students were capable of learning how to use the input devices, learning how to navigate the internet in English. These people don't speak English. These kids using these computers don't speak English. Then he said, well, let's see what we can do with language. So he set up some kids who spoke English with a very strong Indian accent. And he gave them a computer that had been trained to recognize British English and translate it into text. And he gave it to them and he said, make it write what you say. And the kids talked to it and they said, it doesn't understand us at all. He said, well, make it understand you. And they said, how? And he said, I don't know. See you later. He came back 2 months later and they were speaking with a neutral British accent. No teacher involved, no supervision, no classrooms. So he was wondering if this was deep learning, if it was possible to have deep learning using technology. So he went to Britain and did a series of experiments that they called the Gateshead experiments. And what he did there was he took some primary age students, broke them up into groups of 4, and gave them 4 GCSE questions. These are essentially diploma level questions like what you'd see at a grade 12 final exam here. And he let them loose with the internet and the questions. And after they did all their study, he tested them and found out what their marks were. He came back 2 months later, gave them the same test on paper. They scored exactly the same as they scored the moment after they'd studied it. And lastly, he wanted to figure out a little bit about what is necessary in terms of support. And he asked this woman who was untrained as a teacher, untrained in the subject matter of biochemistry, to support a group of young kids who were studying biochemistry in English, not their language. They don't speak English, but they were trying to learn biochemistry from English-based technology sources. And he said, I'd like you to help these kids. And she said, well, I don't know anything about it. He said, use the grandmother method. Stand behind them and admire them. And say, oh, aren't you so smart? How did you do that? Show me that again. How did you get to there? By doing that, the average marks of these students in a subject that they did not know anything about, that was a level far above their head, in a language they couldn't speak, marks went from 30% to 50%. And so now he has something called the Granny Cloud, which is a bunch of grandmothers who volunteered all around the world to be on Skype for 1 hour a month to communicate with students in India, to support them in learning. So it works. Right now the question is it actually worth the effort? And I think it is. I think you'll save time. You can collaborate with other teachers in your own school, across schools, across school boards to build these kinds of online environments. So it's not like it's any more time developing a course. If anything, I believe this could actually save you time. Kids love it. My kids are always on my online shell using the tools there. I have other teachers coming to me saying my kids are asking if my assignments are online. How do I do that? Any school board you work for worth its salt will have some kind of an online environment paid for, and if they don't, if you find one, they should be subsidizing it or paying that cost for you. And lastly, I think we all want to look as contented as this guy when we're done our careers. We want to have a nice long life in education. If you, as part of your educational studies, create your own online course, then that's going to differentiate you from everybody else. So getting into this as quickly as possible, I think, is in your best interest. And to go back to this question, I feel like inquiry is the right philosophy for teaching, and e-learning in a lot of ways is the right platform for teaching. And my email's there. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about these tools. I really feel like this is something that it'll really help your careers and help your students. Thanks very much.